What's up everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Sean O'Malley names the biggest fight at 135 pounds. Going into Sean O'Malley's #1 contender fight with Peter Yan on the main card of UFC 280, all signs pointed to the winner receiving a title shot. With Yan entering the fight as the division's #1 contender, it seemed only fitting that the winner get a crack at the belt. Since the controversial fight, however, O'Malley's newfound status as the #1 contender has been heavily disputed, with many feeling as though the streaking contender was on the right end of a bad decision. It's been suggested that Sugar Sean take another fight prior to getting a crack at the belt. Although he was confident that the judges got things right, he believes there's one fight bigger than a title shot, a rematch with Chito Vera. During a recent episode of the MMA Hour, he spoke about the situation, saying,
me versus Cheeto is the biggest fight in the division right now. It's bigger than, I'd say me versus Cheeto is a bigger fight than me versus Aljo. As far as numbers wise, and if they really wanted to sell it at the pay-per-view, again though, it's like, if we're doing pay-per-view, if I'm selling pay-per-views, I want to get pay-per-view points.
Right.
So that's something, like I said, I'm going to talk with UFC and everything. But yeah, I think that's a massive fight that would definitely, that's going to happen 2023, 2024.
Of course, O'Malley is confident that the next time he steps into the octagon, the bantamweight title will be on the line. With that said, however, many have wondered how things will shake out at 135 pounds, considering the fact that Aljamain Sterling seems content to sit out for the foreseeable future. Beneil Dariush just wants to fight, even if it isn't for the lightweight title. Beneil Dariush has really found his rhythm inside the octagon. On the main card of UFC 280, Dariush picked up an impressive decision win over Mateusz Gamrot to extend his unbeaten streak to 8. While one would think that an 8-fight win streak would guarantee Dariush a crack at the belt, the reality is that featherweight kingpin Alexander Volkanovski is likely the next man up at 155 pounds. As the rest of the division waits to find out when Volkanovski will compete for the lightweight belt, Dariush just wants to remain active. He spoke during a recent interview with Morning Combat to discuss the situation, while calling out several of the division's biggest names.
So I guess right now my options are the winner of Dustin Poirier, Charles, or Fiziev. Those are the three options. Yeah, those are great fights, right? So let's just figure this out and move forward. I don't want to sit out for another 8 months, 9 months, year and a half. I love fighting. I just want to fight, and they could. You're not going to be able to dangle the belt in front of me. Like the belt doesn't make me feel special.
Of course, with that said, when the UFC announced the November 12th clash between Dustin Poirier and Michael Chandler, the former Bellator MMA champion revealed that he believes a title shot was on the line. Considering the logjam of contenders at 155 pounds, the winner of the Poirier-Chandler fight could find themselves at least one more fight away from a title shot, with former champion Charles Oliveira eager to return to competition sooner rather than later. It'll be interesting to see how things shake out at 155 pounds. Who do you think gets the next crack at Islam Makhachev's lightweight title? Should it be Alexander Volkanovski or Beneil Dariush? Give us your thoughts in the comments below. UFC releases several fighters in the latest string of cuts. The UFC cut several notable fighters this week, shocking fight fans and leaving others frustrated. While some of the decisions were certainly more warranted than others, it's never easy to see fighters receive their walking papers from the promotion. This week, Misha Cirkunov, Luis Koski, Krzysztof Jotko, Nick Maximov, Magomed Mustavayev, Charlie Ontiveros, Jesse Ronson, Cameron Van Camp, Darian Weeks, and Jason Witt all were cut from the UFC. This comes in addition to Askar Askarov being granted a release due to unspecified medical reasons, and Jason Witt announcing his retirement. Some of the more shocking names on the list include Jotko and Maximov. In the case of Jotko, he recently dropped a first-round submission loss to Brendan Allen. Despite the loss, Jotko had previously been on a 2-fight win streak that had seen him win 4 of his last 5. Nick Maximov was another name that came as a surprise to fans. The Team Diaz protege had gone unbeaten through 8 fights before then dropping back-to-back losses last year. Although he was on a 2-fight skid, many fans assumed given his affiliation with the Diaz brothers and his first 2 performances in the promotion, he would get a chance to return to the win column. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Frankie Edgar vows to retire after UFC 281. With just weeks to go until Frankie Edgar steps into the octagon to compete for the final time, Many have wondered whether the answer would have a change of heart. As one of the most decorated and beloved champions in UFC history, Edgar will receive no shortage of support when he makes the walk to the octagon in New York later this month. The way Edgar sees things, it's simply time to move on and find out what's next. According to him, there will be no sudden change of heart that sees him make the walk again in the future like so many other legends. He spoke in a recent interview with MMA Fighting to discuss the situation, saying, "I know I can't fight forever. I could definitely string it on a couple more years, probably, but I know I'll never move on to what's the next chapter in my life. I think now I'm being selfish when I'm still trying to chase this, and I've got a family and kids that want to have goals of their own. They want me around and probably want me to be able to speak good and have my wits about me. I just know it's probably the best time." The former lightweight champion will make his final walk to the octagon in hopes of ending his two-fight skid on November 12th when he faces Chris Gutierrez. Conor McGregor's mom refutes Blackface claims. Former two-division UFC champion Conor McGregor has continued to make headlines despite his absence from the octagon. This time, however, it wasn't the Irish superstar who made controversial headlines this week, it was his mother. While the MMA community was celebrating Halloween, McGregor and his family were doing the same over in Ireland. Unfortunately, the costume worn by McGregor's mother has since generated a lot of controversy. While her son and his longtime fiancé were dressed in airline costumes, McGregor's mother was in a costume that many have criticized for using blackface. In photos posted to McGregor's Instagram, his mother can be seen wearing the controversial costume. According to a statement released through her son's team, McGregor's mother had spiders painted on her face. The McGregor family loves Halloween. Mrs. McGregor had spiders painted on her face since her costume was a ghoul risen from the grave. Any other interpretation was just wrong and truly unfortunate. So far, no word yet from the former champ on the situation. However, fans were quick to shoot down the excuse, claiming that McGregor's team was making excuses for the blackface costume. Her son, who is no stranger to controversy himself, is gearing up to make a return to the octagon after breaking his leg last year in a horrific injury sustained during his trilogy bout with Dustin Poirier. As UFC President Dana White recently revealed, McGregor will have to go through a 6-month mandatory USADA testing period while he prepares to return to the octagon. And now for our breaking news story of the day. Jake Paul once again calls out Nate Diaz following Anderson Silva win. After Jake Paul shocked the world by picking up a decision win over Anderson Silva, the controversial YouTuber was quick to call out former UFC superstar Nate Diaz. With Diaz now free from his UFC contract, Paul believes the time is now for the two to square off inside the ring. Add on to that, Diaz slapping one of Paul's team members backstage, and you have a good old-fashioned rivalry on your hands. During a recent episode of the MMA Hour, Paul called for a showdown with Diaz once again, vowing that he would make light work of Diaz after defeating the Spider.
I just beat one of the greatest MMA fighters of all time. Nate Diaz is easy work. Anderson Silva is way more difficult than Nate Diaz. He's like slow, and at the end of his career, like he's lost it. As far as striking, you know, like maybe he still has jiu-jitsu, but as far as like striking and all that, he's just like a street fighter.
So far, no word yet from Diaz. However, reports have indicated that he may not be interested in competing against Jake Paul. Whether or not that changes remains to be seen. Do you want to see the two men fight, or should Diaz pursue other endeavors in combat sports? Give us your thoughts in the comments below. Today's video was packed with some juicy stories from the fight world. What are your thoughts about what's going on in MMA? Don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to the MMA Zone to see more videos just like this. See you next time.